commercial check ride with the examiner, and your wing falls off. The FAA just announced the Piper Wingspar 80. Also, if you're going to fly your drone into a helicopter, best not to do it to a police helicopter. These topics and more on Taking Off. Welcome to Taking Off. I'm Christy Wong. Thank you for joining us on our special Thanksgiving episode, where I'm going to discuss some of the things that I'm most thankful for in spite of the negative going on this year. It is 2020. Does that mean we have better hindsight? But first, let's get to some of the recent events happening in aviation this week. In Embry-Riddle, Piper Aero crashed on April 4th, 2018, killing both the pilot and the examiner. The wing came off in flight. A horrible, horrible thing. On November 23rd, 2020, the FAA published the Wingspar 80 for the Piper PA-28 and 32 bodies, which affects over 11,000 aircraft. If you're wondering, the Wong Warrior is not included in this AD. It mainly affects the Hershey bar-winged Pipers. If you're wondering what this is all about, Bill Goebel joined us for an episode of In the Hangar that describes this exact problem. Link is provided. So here's the bottom line on the AD for you Piper owner-operators. Both left and right main wing spars have to be inspected for corrosion within the next 100 hours or 12 months, whichever comes first, after the effective date of December 28, 2020, and then within 7 years again thereafter. The FAA says it would only take a mechanic 2 hours to inspect both wings at around $170. They do list a bunch of different ways the wing spar can be inspected. Borescope through existing access panels, installation of inspection access plates, and stuff like that. For those who did the Piper SB 1204 inspection and application of corrosion preventative, the AD does give you credit for that. So what happens if you find corrosion? The AD lists the minimum thickness of the components, and if it's not met, then it reads, the structure must be repaired to standard. Simple words, but could be a huge hit to some of you Piper owners. But the bottom line is this: you don't want your wing falling off in flight. There's no recovery for that. I would want to know. So we check the wing spar on the Wong Warrior every annual, AD or not. In my opinion, this AD is nothing to fear. It's reasonable and keeps us safe. And by reasonable, I mean they're not requiring all PA-28s to replace wing spars at thousands of dollars each. So let's get these inspected to avoid any wings come off headlines. What do you think of the Piper AD? Leave us your thoughts in the comments below. As pilots, we have plenty to worry about, from weather to systems to random jetpack guys on final approaches. But one thing we've had to start dealing with is impactful interactions with drones. For us fixed-wing pilots, our close calls so far have been on takeoffs and landings, but I can't imagine what the rotor pilots have to deal with as they live in that low-altitude arena. And one reoccurring issue is emergency events in which amateur drone pilots grab their toy and launch it above the fire or over the crash so that they can show their friends how cool they were to get that footage, until something goes wrong. FBI agents arrested a 22-year-old man from Hollywood, California this week after his drone crashed into an LAPD helicopter that was in flight. Andrew Hernandez was charged one federal misdemeanor count of unsafe operation of an unmanned aircraft, which is believed to be the first criminal case in the country on that particular allegation. In a twist of irony, Hernandez's arrest came during National Drone Safety Awareness Week, which is sponsored by the FAA and seeks to promote drone safety. Fortunately, the pilot of the helicopter was able to land safely after it was struck by the wayward drone. You might be thinking, Christy, how in the world does this happen? Well, air support was requested by the LAPD to the scene of a burglary in progress on the early morning hours of September 18th. As the helicopter approached the scene, the pilot saw the drone and attempted to evade it unsuccessfully. The drone damaged the helicopter's nose, antenna, and the bottom cowlings, prompting an emergency landing by the pilot. Fortunately, that's all the damage that was done. But if the drone had struck the helicopter's main rotor just a few feet higher instead of the fuselage, all bets are off. It could have caused substantial damage, leading to a crash. Thankfully, we had a more positive outcome. Perhaps these charges will send a message to other drone operators that this is a serious offense with serious consequences. There are hundreds of reported close encounter events over the past few years between drones and aircraft. I want to stress, these events put lives in danger. If you operate an unmanned drone, please adhere to all safety standards and make sure to study up on regulations and airspace rules. And what happens if you're a pilot and have a close encounter with a drone? Please report it immediately to air traffic control, your local law enforcement responders, and your local FSDO. The FAA's investigators may be able to investigate your report and follow up with the drone operator. For more information, see the Unmanned Aircraft Systems page on the FAA's website. In other news, a Southern Air 777-200 climbing out of JFK Airport reportedly encountered a stall during the initial climb out. The freighter had just departed runway 22 right and was climbing to 5,000 feet when the crew contacted departure. ATC cleared them to climb to 11,000 feet, and the pilot monitoring read back the clearance when all of a sudden he shouted, "Stall, stall, stall, stall." He had keyed his mic to talk to ATC and was also responsible to call out to the pilot flying any critical information like, "Hey, plane's about to fall from the sky." The speed over the ground had decayed slightly from about 273 knots to around 256 knots while climbing above 5,000 feet when the aircraft began to descend, but thankfully stabilized around 200 feet lower. In the meantime, the controller received several requests from other aircraft and just replied standby to these aircraft. When the controller asked whether the 777 was ready to climb, the crew again replied standby. One thing to keep in mind here, we have a speed limit in the sky below 10,000 feet. And a big heavy plane like this needs speed to climb. So the minimum speed required in this case was actually really close to that speed limit. About 90 seconds after the initial stall callouts, the speed had recovered to 277 knots over the ground and was accelerating. The crew then indicated to the controller that they were ready to climb again, everything was good, and they were cleared to continue their climb. It was at this point the flight crew requested relief from the speed limit and they were given permission. Some have speculated that he might have busted the speed limit based on the radar before asking, but we don't know what his indicated airspeed was. The controller also resumed normal service to all other aircraft. The 777 continued their flight to Seoul, where the aircraft landed safely about 14 and a half hours later. Right now, we don't know exactly what happened that put them in that situation, and so far, it's all speculation as to the details. What we do know is that they pulled out of it with a positive outcome. Kudos to the crew for getting the situation under control, and mega kudos to the air traffic controller who responded and assisted calmly and professionally while managing all those other aircraft in his sector. Good job, guys. All right, the 737 MAX was cleared for takeoff once again. FAA Administrator Steve Dixon signed an order that paves the way for the Boeing 737 MAX to return to commercial service. In addition to rescinding the order that grounded those aircraft, the FAA today published an Airworthiness Directive, or AD, specifying design changes that must be made before the aircraft returns to service. This AD is quite lengthy, complete with a 115-page document spelling out a bunch of requirements such as software revisions, crew training, some wiring changes, and other tests before a 737 MAX can return to the sky for that airline. So don't get too excited yet. We likely won't see the MAX flying just quite yet because these actions do not allow the MAX to return immediately to the skies. Once these ADs are complied with, the FAA must approve 737 MAX pilot training program revisions for each and every U.S. airline operating the MAX. Furthermore, airlines that have parked their MAX aircraft must take the required maintenance steps to prepare them to fly again. So, best case scenario, we could see some carriers flying the MAX by the end of this year, but it's more likely that they'll start flying again in early 2021. So now I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about giving thanks. It's been such a trying year with furloughs, downturns, and a lot of uncertainty. It's really easy to get caught up in the negativity, especially on some of the social media forums. I implore you to take a few minutes to look around you and find at least 5 things that you're thankful for, and then share that thankfulness with those around you, including on social media. Let's start a positive trend and spread the love. Now, here are 5 things that I am personally thankful for. I'm thankful for the people and the opportunities I've been given in aviation, especially recently. Hard work and a good attitude will get you through the tough times, even when things look bleak. I'm thankful for my co-host, Dan Milliken, and for what we've done together with Taking Off and In the Hangar. It's been such an incredible journey so far, and I'm really looking forward to seeing our continued growth. I'm thankful for my awesome husband, Steve, and his patience when teaching me how to fly in those early days of flight training. Looking back, it's made some pretty awesome memories for us. I'm thankful for my amazing best friends. You know who you are. I love you, and I couldn't get through the tough times without you. And I'm very thankful for you, the viewers, for supporting us and cheering us on along the way as we grow our channel. Now I'd like to know what you're thankful for. Leave a comment below and let us know what has brought you joy and thanks this year. Please like, subscribe, and share our content so we can reach even more viewers. And if you'd like to support our channel, you can join our Hanger Club and also buy our t-shirts. It all goes right back into shooting and editing our videos. Also, if you'd like to support me, go to Pilot Christy on Patreon. I'm so grateful for my Patreon supporters. And finally, I want to tell you about a David versus Goliath story. Our friend Josh Flowers over at another YouTube channel endorses flying eye sunglasses just like we do. But he has like a gazillion followers. So I need our fans to rise up and buy their flying eyes using our code TakingOff, all caps, one word, for that 10% off. We need to have more of our codes used than Josh by December, so you'd really be helping me out. Oh, and hashtag don't tell Josh. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Taking Off.